Hey Peter, hey Mark. Um, Tonight we've got a bit of a project on, um, and it's been too long. Like honestly, it's been too long, and it's dragging out. And I've been thinking about it, and it hasn't been sort of out of sight even, but needs to get sorted. So we might have a bigger look at that. We'll have a bit of a look at some of the things a bit later on of all the things that we've done during the week, things that I've made, progress on stuff. Um, But we'll have a look at this first, and there's some upcoming projects too that sort of need to be sorted. Um, we've got this, right, which is Bill's Japanese Akashai hardness tester unit. Right, it's the head off it. It's got a dovetail slide on the back. It's actually pretty nice. It should have a ratchet lever to pull it down, and it leaves a mark, and then it measures the deflection basically. So basically the cap comes off and it's got a pointer there to leave a mark. And the spring pops out. And it's a fairly complicated bit of gear. And it's been through a fire, I believe. So poor thing's feeling a bit untidy and a bit unloved. I've gone through the indicator pretty well. It's not quite right, but it's much, much, much better than it was. There's still issues with it. You actually read it, which is a good start. The needles, hey James, good morning. The needle's off it. The needle's here, but the needle's missing the little bush that goes in the center because it's damaged. So we're going to need to make a new one of them out of brass at some point. I believe this screw was missing when I got it, so I'm going to have to make a new screw or find a new screw or work out what thread it is and put that in. That's a bit dangerous with that point sticking out, so I'm going to put this cap back on. There. Apart from that, right, it's supposed to have a glass on here. I think it's only a flat glass because there's plenty of clearance. It might have a little bit of dome in it, but we'll find a crystal for it at some point when we get it going. Now, probably with the right calculations, you could just use ordinary dial indicator for this because all it does is measure the depth of the dot. I think, I'm not sure, correct me someone who's ever used one of these. I haven't met very many people who do, and there are manuals online. I need to study them up a bit. But this has got some fancy calibration on the dial, so we really need to use this one, and it's got sort of a dial that moves or is supposed to move, so you can set it and calibrate it, and then another dial that moves on top of it with a pointer, so you can see where it was or set it to a point that you want, so that you can see how far the needle moves. So that's where we're at. It's old. It's 1960s. It's probably a really nice machine. However, our job tonight, right? It should have a cover on the top here that's missing. It used to be a plastic cover. Let's shoot some stuff. I'll have a look at the couple I've made. Yeah. I've had a bit of a play with this and with very little result so far, but I think we have a better look at it. But the cover should look, I think the cover looks, and there's no way that's going to clear. So now it's all back together. That doesn't work. This one might be better. It's got the cutouts in the right spots on the sides, but it doesn't fit back because the cutouts aren't deep enough. And I'm not sure about the size or the shape of it. Now, I'm not sure whether it just had a window in here for the glass or what it was, but it wants to be a bit space age like that. So that's what we're going to look at. It's not really a live stream subject, but if I don't do it now, I guess everyone can hear me. If I don't do it now, I might not ever do it. So we need to get in and have a go at it. I think I had files already sorted or looking at, and I'll show you what I was doing. Let's see what we can find. No. I don't know what I saved it under. There we go. That's what I saved it under. And it's actually exactly 12 months, which is a bit slack since I really messed around with this. Let's have a look at this. So this is where I was at. Right, we press P to get rid of all those planes. They're loaded. It's not been updated to the latest version of the feature library. I'm going to do that because we might need it. Scheduled update, all that sort of stuff. We'll close that. And we press P to get rid of the planes. Now, this is sort of works. It sort of doesn't too. This gasket in the back's in the way. We discovered in the top there. These grooves aren't deep enough. And there needs to be some way of locating it with a screw on top there. A little screw goes in there. And I believe it's got like a clip on the bottom that fits in a groove. So that's how that works. Apart from that, most of the things are in the wrong place. Now I've put it back together and got it going. Let me know if it gets too laggy. I'll close this little talking head thing. But the dial doesn't line up there, see? Even a little bit. It's about half a screen out. And this one is probably closer. But same deal. Dial doesn't line up particularly well. So I don't know if that's in the right spot, even up and down. And I think it needs to be a little bit adjustable. But it's only got about 1 millimeter of gap under there. So we can't move it much more than that. We could put this part aside so we're not carrying it all around. And just have a look at this. So we get the trusty verniers out, and we're going to assume that it's all in metric. It's a fairly difficult thing to measure up. But we're going to put this one aside and start again, I think. So create a new part studio. I think, did we do that? What happened? Maybe we've done it twice now. It's been a pretty crazy weekend. I haven't achieved anything at all, even a little bit, sadly. Oh, come on, do your thing. Do the thing. Didn't achieve much. I've been shopping all day. Went and got some brass and bronze and stuff. And yeah, anyway, more about that tomorrow night. Wait for this to load. It's probably updating itself or something. I don't know. The feature strip library and stuff. I don't know if that's what it is. This is probably getting a bit laggy, and if so, I might close this talking head and we'll have a look at it. Might see how that goes. I'll turn this off. We'll try that. Going to refresh that page. Well, that's true. Did that. There we go. Refresh that and that's working. So we've got sort of a diamond shaped thing. If we put a sketch and just click sketch, and it asks for the sketch plane, we either click top here or front, or we can click front here. And we can click end for normal. That brings it round level. The best way to do this probably is it's got to be mirrored. But if we go for a center point line like that, and it's 69 millimeters across there, I just measured it. There we go. Now, just an ordinary line. We press Q, remember, Q to start the construction line. And we'll put a line up here to the top, eh? That's a good place to start. This is not an easy thing to measure at all. There must be about a dozen steel rulers here on the bench or somewhere. Can't see any. The steel ruler is probably good enough. We'll measure it with the vernier. So it's 84 mil high. We'll put 84 in there. And that's given us our basic dimensions. Now, across here, it's not a particularly simple curve is what we've got. See, what we've got, we haven't just got a box. It comes up here and around there. So we need some sort of reference points. And I don't know where to even start with that. We can put the first couple of reference points in. Oh, we're going to look at that. looking at that, the center of the dial, if we start with that, might be a good place to start. And at the moment it's about 33 mil. So if we put a dot here like that, and we can measure the dot rather than put another line in there. We go 33 mil. That's where that is, and it's about 64 mil across here. So we select that and we go for another midpoint line, and we can come out here 64 mil. So that's one point. Now using this dial indicator as a sort of a guide, the top of the dial there is up. It's very difficult to get it. It's not an easy thing to do because it's so organic, and we don't have a drawing or anything to work off, and don't really know what they did. I think they basically just made out of moulding clay and then made a wooden one to match. Anyway, 65 to the top of the dial. So we put another dot. We do the same thing again. Put another dot in here on that line and measure it again. That's way too much. 65. And then same deal. Press Q again. And we'll put another one in here. And right at the top there, I reckon it is, I'm guessing. I don't know if there's probably a better way to do this, but I don't know what it is. See, this is why projects online take forever. You can edit them out, but we've got 54 mil there. So that gives us that line there, and then this comes up to the top. And if we measure down here where the lid bolts on, that's down about what? It's about 5 mil down from the top. So if we did the same, and measured that one, 5 mil. Five there. Now, the distance across there, if we get the basic shape out, we can put some dimensions in later. But that's about 35 mil. So what we've got is basically a shape down the top here. If we use this spline, right, and start at the top here and go to there and there and there and there, we've sort of got a line. It shouldn't probably have a construction line, but if we click on that line and we can unclick it there or press Q, same deal. So that sort of gives us the shape. It's not really though. I'm going to try that again. We go Control Z there and Control Z again, so that disappears. Let's try it this way. See what we end up with. Press escape at the end. And we've got a shape that's not even close to where it should be, to be honest. So that's an interesting phenomenon. I'm going to recheck this one because I don't think we're close. Let's change this to 37. Change it to 38, see what that looks. That looks more like what it should look like, I think. Probably. Might not be that wide there. 37 might have been a good guess. So that's the basic shape. If you have more datum points, that's exactly right. Not convinced that datum points are the answer. I'm not sure what to do there, but anyway, let's have a look. We've got that, and a lot of this style of work I do is a bit suck it and see. We've got that. We need another profile, which is the bottom profile, which is this shape around here. If we finish that sketch, right, and put a new sketch on the top plane like that. If we go normal, I think that turns it round. It doesn't. There we go. I'm guessing that to be about 25 millimeters in the middle, so I'm going to do the same thing. See, pushing projects like this isn't really all that exciting, to be honest. That's what I've done. Got some actual marks on here so I can see that up here, 8 millimeters. It's about 63. So let's do that again. Same here. and 63. Now, there's a bit of a curve, and I'm just going to plot this, and we'll put some measurements in later, I think. We can use this tool, which is the used tool, and we can put this line here into our sketch with that. So this is a line off the other sketch. We can put that into our sketch using this square box, which is the use tool. This has got intersection on it too, which gives you a cut on two planes, which is quite useful as well. And if we're guessing this, which we probably shouldn't be, we get nothing like what it looks like, even a little bit. So interesting. So that's why jobs like this are not all that much fun. And that's why it's been procrastinated, I guess. See, it's 63 and a half if we're going to go there, I think. Anyway. What we can do is pull this in here a bit. And this one in. And this one in. Excuse me. Gosh, that's not real good. And use this handle here. To give us a nice straight curve through there. Sort of. I think this one wants to go a fraction more that way, maybe. Probably something like that. And I'll put in some measurements later when we get it somewhere near close. Too far. All right, that looks something like it should look, I think. If we mirror that, select the mirror line, mirror this one. Then select the mirror line, turns yellow, mirror this one. That gives us a shape there and a shape there, which we should be able to create some form of pattern from. I'm guessing that some Japanese artist guy who designed this, because there's no straight lines in it, just looked at it, stood back and looked at it and thought, that looks about right, maybe a bit thinner there. Winter Garden 2, good day. Um, so we've for those who come in late, this is really just a job for a friend of mine. It's a hardness tester front dial. It's not a particularly simple thing because the part's missing and it's difficult to draw it up. We've just got a gap, really. And there's not a lot to work with. So we need here. What we're looking for. This panel here is what we're looking for. We'll click on that to give us sort of the isometric view that we want. And it's this one here, which is all about planes and constrained surfaces and things. I'm probably going to try first. I'm going to try feel. Right, and that gives us something that looks like it'll fit, but it's really hasn't fixed that. What we've got's a plane, which is nice, and we can thicken that. Like just for example, if we use this one, let's just thicken and click that surface, we can make that 5 mil thicker, or let's say, for example, 2 millimeters. It's probably not very helpful at this point, but it gives you some idea what the part looks like, not just the plane. I might undo that. Might delete that last feature. So what that needs is another line in here, or a guide. I think if we delete that, we're back to our lines. I think we probably need to put something on here. And what I think, this is what I think. I'm not sure if it's right, but what I sort of feel is that this part here of this, from there around to there, off that line, probably should be exactly the same except sticking up. That's what I think. So let's try that. Best way to do that is probably to what's the best way to do that? Sketch one, right? If we copy the sketch and we start another sketch. Now, if we change the plane or move a plane up here to this line, we can put a sketch on that. So let's do that first. Up here is a plane tool. And if we select offset and we offset the top plane, it puts another plane in wherever we want it. Now, what did we say that was? We click that OK for now. This little tape measure down the corner, we can measure from that dot to that dot. Give it 65 mil, just as a reminder, rather than opening the sketch again. So on plane one, we can open that and edit it like that. 65. And that'll put that plane right on that line. Now if we make a new sketch on here, on plane one, and we view this as normal. If we press the N key, that's a really good tip. View this as normal, and then paste the sketch entities into there. What we've got, we can use this centerpiece here to move it around where we want it. So we can move it from there. We can use this one to swing at 180 degrees. And that should lock in nicely at 180 there. And if we press enter, will that, yeah, there we go, it's done it. So let's transform that again. Move the center circle up here to where it needs to be. Now we can move this and it should lock nicely on the center there. See, it's got a little orange light and it stands there. Now if we move this one, that should lock there too, and that puts that exactly in the right spot. Right. We can get this line and we can change this to a solid line. That ends our sketch, and then we use the little scissors tool, trim that there, trim that there, and we can go off that and select all of this here and press the delete button. So that's put another sketch where we think it might need to be. That gives us the same sketch here as there. Let's try that. There we go. Now if we try and put a surface on here, fill this one, and this one, and this one. It's up here where we can see it. We click guides and vertices and curves. Let's do this. And now we've got something that looks quite ugly, but a little bit less ugly than it did before. And to the point that it wouldn't take a lot of changing around to make it look something like what it should. We've got a funny bulge in here, which I don't like, on one side, see? And it's hollow on the other side, so it's struggling a bit with this. If we put another one of these, like if we did the same thing again and put this sketch up here on this one down far enough so that it intersected here, we might be getting very close. So if we put a plane on here, we'll measure that first. There to there. 33 millimeters, we said. Someone can probably remember that. I'm not very good at that. And a new plane based on this one with an offset. Let's put that in there already. 33. There we go. That should be exactly on that plane there. If we look at the top. Exactly. So this sketch here is sketch 2. If we copy that sketch and here on, we'll make another sketch on this plane here, which is plane 2. Probably we should be labeling these because we'll get lost. And we paste the sketch in. Right, same thing. It's got this here. Now we can move this down till it lines up there and clicks in place. We can move this across here so that it clicks in place there. And it wants to be pulled down a bit further so that it actually lines up. Not sure if that's the correct way to do that. Probably better ways to work this out because that's not quite there yet. Now the problem is that this curve here is actually lower than this curve here on the end. If we use this button here, which is use this curve here, we're going to use that one. Because we haven't got the construction lines selected, when we use that curve off the other sketch, it's actually it's put it in as a solid line rather than construction line. If we had the construction line button selected when we use that button, it would put it in as a construction line. Now this might work. If we trim this, right, we've got this here and this here. However, what we've got is something that's not even close to right. We can adjust this. Because I think this needs to be, let's click normal so we're talking to it like that. This needs to be up there somewhere. To do that, we're going to have to delete this measurement, which doesn't mean very much anymore. And we're going to have to put another measurement dimension in from that dot through to that dot. I think that'll work. 17.6, let's go 21. There you go. I've got a dimension line, that's why we can't click on that. There we go. We'll go N for normal. Let's put it in upside down. We'll go around this way. And that should change it. It doesn't though. There we go. Now, in the center scroll wheel, we can just bring that in there so that we can actually see it. The problem with doing that is that you really need to frequently click off there to actually see. It's probably getting close. I think if we did some proper measurement on a surface plate or something like that, we might find that we can put some actual figures on some of these dots. What I'm going to do is delete that one, and we're going to make this one a fraction more. We go 22 here. There we go. And we're going to mirror that one back in, so we've got in the same. So we'll select the center line. We'll click this one to mirror it. And we've got a completed sketch because it's turned dark. Now, let's see what that happens like. We can use the fill. And we can select our edges. And you notice this comes in with a red dot here. And when it's all connected up, the red dots disappear. If we click in the here, we get an error. Guide entities cannot be used as selected. There we go. That's not helpful. So we've got guide problems. What happens if we just select one? We've got that. This works, but we've got a problem here. There's this bulge, see? Why is that bulge there? You see that? If we look at the bottom set view, we've got a bulge there, which shouldn't be there for some reason. And it doesn't like using that extra guide for some reason, because somehow that doesn't work. Let's try something else. We do it this way. It doesn't work. There is something here we can do. We'll have a look at this. It's not that one. See, there's some challenges in this, and I'm sure you can see that. I haven't made a lot of progress here. We've got the basic framework set up. It's like making a boat. Getting a lot of silence and not much action here, guys. Sorry, guys. I'm going to have a think about this. I don't think it's a particularly difficult thing, and I've done much more complicated curve stuff. Just thinking about it. There will be a way to do it. But anyway, rather than bore everyone to death with this, because I'm going to have to spend some time thinking about it and come back to it, we might have a bit of a look at what else we've done. We can't wait that much longer, but we'll have some actual success next week. So anyway, let's have a look at what else we've done this week. Nearly every job you do with this program or with a CAD program requires learning some actual thing about things. Let's have a look here. Yes, you cover each section individually. I've got to think about how to do that. That's absolutely what I was thinking, to be honest. Let's have a look here. What have I done? I've had a bit of a hiccup with this casting. What I'm going to do during the week is sit down and measure that up properly, and we'll end up with some actual results then and work out how to do it. This core box I've been working on, and you've seen this before, I think. This is something I've done quite some time ago. This is a core box for a veteran car pump impeller. What we need to do, the task is the task has been for some time. We'll wait for this to actually come and do this. Come on, you can do this. This is assembly, so let's hide that. What we've got is this impeller that we need to make. Now, we had one to copy, and it's off a veteran car, a 1907, I think, Argyle, something like that, Scottish Argyle. Now, we had one to copy, and the problem with that is that the one to copy is off the wrong side of the engine, so it runs the opposite direction. So we needed to reverse the direction, and we've done this CAD workup, but then we need to cast one. And because of the shape of it, if you look at the top of it, you're not going to get a sand core, or you're not going to get a mold in the sand and pull this out particularly well, because of there's a lot of curves that close in on themselves nearly. So you end up with very fragile parts and sand inclusions all through. So you need to make a better and more substantial way to pour this or to cast it. So what we've done, if we have a look at this, to give you some idea, if we make 4 sand cores with the negative image in them, this one's been moved out of the way for some reason. I'm not sure why that was. I've been messing around with this for a while. Then we can pour into the sand cores, like a sodium silicate casting core, and we can actually fill this up, and we've got a very nice impression. And to do that, we can basically, we've got to pattern this shape, see? impression in the sand, and when we pull that out, we can drop these 4 cores in, and that gives us a nice impression to pour metal into, and gives us a really nice job without having to mold each piece individually. So to do that, I've made a core box. Probably. What was the problem with that? Was there before, wasn't it? Absolutely. We'll have a look here at that. Anyway, we'll look at the other one, and this will show you what the core box looks like. So these 2 pieces slide in and out of here, so they don't actually, there's no interference with the sand. This here releases nicely because it's all tapered curves and things, and this slides out, and then these 2 bits come apart, releasing the core in here. It's probably the drawing I should have showed you on. And that core goes in there like that on each side and fits nicely. If we use a section view, which is quite a useful tool, not just for pretties, we'll pull a section plane on there. Right, we can see that center curve gives us that profile all the way down on the core. And if we take part A off, that's the shape that we're left with. And if we lift part C off, that's where that fits. And then part B gives us a sand core that looks like this, and the 4 of them should fit inside the main pattern in the sand. And that, I'm sure we're following. So that's this, of course, has got a bit of nice taper on it this way, so that it comes out of the sand, all those sort of things. The problem was that I've already done this, and someone got in a grot at our Foundry Club and said, well, I'll do you a favour because I like you, and I'll take these away and cast them. And of course, we haven't seen him again anymore. He didn't come back. So I've lost my patterns. So I've actually been working on getting these cast up again. Or made these printed up again in 3D print so that they actually work. So that's one job I've been working on. Other job's probably in the same bulk. Come on, you can. There we go. Probably shouldn't have closed that. So that's one job I've sort of done. The other job is a nice drawing, which I've uploaded onto Facebook because of mine, and this is from Mark's Parts, which is very nice. And I went and got a bit of bronze today to do that, but that was an undertaking in itself. We're on sheet 2 here. It's not where we want to be. We get back to sheet 1. I spent quite a lot of time relearning drawings, and we're going to have a bit of a look at that. But I've unlearned all that in the meantime. Sorry, guys. Anyway, instead, this is the injector tail. There's 2 separate things I did. One was injector. Injector on a steam engine is a piece or the device that it's not really even a machine. There's no moving parts in an injector. It uses steam pressure to pump against the boiler pressure, which it amplifies the pressure, I guess, using jets or cones or conical jets to give enough pressure to push the water against or into the boiler at the pressure that it's running at. So it's kind of a perpetual motion machine if you're going to look at it like that. That's really messed all of you up, hasn't it? But the injector uses steam pressure to pump water into the boiler at the same pressure as being used to pump it. It's a bit strange, but there you go. It amplifies the pressure of the water and pushes it, uses the heat as well, I think. I'm going to have to look that up now too. But it's found a roller or road locomotive or road engine, steam engine, road engine injectors have a problem in that they've usually got a vertical pipe, and mine, the pipe goes right past the winch drum. And last year we were winching ropes out of the bush with the roller, which is not really a roller job, but it's something that we were doing. And we're getting a bit tired, and the winch hook got caught on the pipe and pulled it inside. I pulled a bend in the pipe, and the top of the nut, it's got basically a tail which screws on the pipe with a joining sleeve or union, and then it's got a nut sits on top here. We'll have a look at that. I didn't do an assembly. Probably could have. But this nut slides over that and clamps down on the device. So that's the nut. Now it's a proprietary thread, of course, because there's patents on this device and they didn't want anyone else making them, I guess. So it's actually 14 TPI. It's basically 1.25 inch thread with the same pitch as an inch thread, or it's an inch thread, an inch pipe thread, but it's got the same pitch as a 3/4 pipe thread, I think is how it works. So this has got to be made up out of brass because this ring here cracks out. And if I look at the one that I'm copying, which belongs to Mark, actually, his is quite badly distorted here too. And I think that's quite common. Mine's been soldered up once already where it's broken out. And because it just has that tail sitting on there, to give you some idea, let's do this. We can do this like this. We can create an assembly here. Call this, rename this so we don't get lost. Nut and tail. Now, there we go. And we go up here to insert. We'll go down here to refine the part. And this particular parts library here is getting a bit complicated because there's a lot of Fowler parts here. There we go. Now, if we don't move off this little window here and click the tick button, that puts that automatically back on the origin point, which is very useful. Right. If we go over here, we can fix this. So it's a useful thing to do. The first main part you put in an assembly, and then insert again. Come down here. And of course, that's nowhere near where it should be. So it's quite easy to move it away so you can see where it should be. We need to put a mate in there, and probably a revolve mate, which means it can turn. And that'll be on that surface there and that surface there. In the same center. Now we need this. And what we've got there is the two parts. They're a bit difficult to see because they're both the same color. Let's change that. We'll come over here to this and we'll go to right click this, edit appearance. Let's make that yellow. Then if we come back to our assembly, that should have automatically changed that. So that's where that sits. Goes that way up. And this tapered seat here screws down onto a seat. And it's got a key in here, a square opening, so that you can actually screw this in nice and tight into the union. So it saves putting like grip marks and things on there. It's probably a design flaw. Perry and my machines are 100 years old, just on. Next year, both be 100 years old. And it hasn't done too bad. And as it is now on the roller, it still functions perfectly well. There's nothing wrong with it, except that the pipe, it leaks a bit of water and a bit of steam. So it's not as efficient as it could be. And I'd like to get it fixed, mostly because it's a burn hazard. So this particular pump and nut and tail pipe tail and the nut for this particular injector from the UK was, I think they quoted me £55 or something like that for one of them. And then when I went to order them, the bill was 370 or something with freight, because you've got to buy a set of 3. You can't just buy one, which is not much good because the other 2 are fine. There's 3 on it, but one of them is just a waste outlet. It's got a bit of pipe, sort of 4 inches long on it. The other one's a water inlet. No, one's a steam inlet, which is a steam from the boiler. One's the water inlet, which is the water from the tank, and the other one's the delivery, which is water into the boiler. It goes through the clack valve. There is an overflow, but that's just an ordinary pipe tail. So you've got to buy the 3 of them, and I wasn't really up for the sort of $350, $400 to do it. So I borrowed one. Thank you very much, Mark. And we're going to actually, I'll machine this up in the next few days, and or the next week anyway. And by the time Glenray Timberfest comes along, we'll have it made, I hope. So that's another job. Because this is a revolve mate we've put here, we can actually animate that. A revolute mate. We've got this function here to animate it. See, that's how the nut turns. This nut is an odd size too. It's the same as 1 inch Whitworth in the old sizes, like pre-war sizes. So, of course, that doesn't help anything as far as getting one that actually fits it. And it's quite a stocky, beefy nut, which it needs to be because it holds this pipe down. At some point, we will put a guard around this pipe so this doesn't happen again, which would be a very good idea, and some fireproof wrapping on it so that no one burns their hand on it, because I did burn my hand on this particular pipe last time I steamed the roller. It's a bit of a problem because right where your hand is when you sit in the roller. Anyway, that's another job that we've done and got sort of sorted. So I've actually made drawings for that. Like a proper drawing. It shows all the dimensions, basically the radius on top here, and there's a section in here, or a cutout section or a detail section there. Section B, which is 2:1 or a scale. There's a cutout here of this so you can see the inside of it, which is AA across these 2 points. And all the there sort of is outside diameter is inch, and the external thread is 3/4 BSBT. This measurement here, which is 1.041, is the diameter of 3/4 inch pipe. Probably should have been on here somewhere as well, but I haven't put that there. I can work that out. But that's the hex basically is a square hole. Is 12 mil roughly hole. Is a bit bigger than 11 mil, a bit bigger than 7/16. Not big enough to put a 1/2 inch socket in, but it's actually the same size as you can get on the hole in the middle. I don't know why they've done that like that. So that's done. Once we had a complete stuff up with our laser cutting, which is a very simple thing to do. If we have a look at this, Let's have a look at a piece. That's a good example. These are the motion covers for the roller, and a lot of this is roller oriented because at the moment that's what I'm working on more than anything. I'm trying to get this going. These are the motion covers. They're a bit different because the two covers on the engine, for compound engine, are two different size bores. So this one's 8 and this one's, we can check that very easily. This one's 292 millimeters and this one's 215. I found drawings of these, and it's a very difficult thing to measure on the roller, but this is what I've done. And I've got these, which hopefully will fit, and they've been laser cut, and they've got holes around here for this. I haven't put holes for mounting them because I'd like to mark them off the job, I think. I'd like to get the pieces on there and then just hold them up and get them right and mark them. And then put studs in the pieces, nuts or thumb nuts or whatever on the top of them. They go across between the cylinders and the horn plates on the roller or the top of the boiler, just to keep people's fingers and things out. And they've got name plates and stuff on them. One's got the roller's name on it, another one's got an agent's plate. But we had to stuff up laser cutting because what I've done is I've drawn these up in inches, right? Because that's the way the roll, all the drawings I've got are. And if we have a look up here at workplace units, I've changed this back. Actually, I've changed it back because I was working on something else since. But if we change this to, if we leave this, the default length unit at inch, and then we export it as a DXF for laser cutting, so a DXF file, which is what the laser cutter is, it's got here, well, we'll do it this way, because there's the metal pattern there. That's the two patterns. If we right click on that and we go export DXF, that'll export a laser cut file, and that's great, except that if you export it, it exports it basically in inches, and my laser cutter picked that up as millimeters, so it was trying to quote me on pieces that were 15 by 30 millimeters basically wide, which is not helpful really. Not very big pieces. So I had to change that back to metric, and when you change the units, all the drawings and everything change, and then it exports it as a metric file, and it gives us a figure of what's this, 849 long and 381 deep. Whereas if we change this to metric, and we can do it just like this, because this is already set to millimeters, and it's a bit difficult because you don't realize that that's how you set up your drawing. This will give us, what do we got? Basically 15 inches or 15 millimeters of a laser cutter read it as, by 33.463 inches with 33.5 millimeters. It's not a very big part. So there's an interesting thing that it's been a learning curve for me cutting bits for laser cutters, because it's never happened before. Because usually I just work in metric, and the metric bits just come out the same anyway, and I didn't give it a thought. So laser cutting will be here probably about the end of the week or the weekend or something like that, I hope. Probably for next week's live stream, we'll be able to have a look at it next Wednesday night. Anyway, that's done. So they're all interesting CAD things that I've been sort of dealing with and working out, so forth, so on. Anyway, I'm going to spend a little bit of time this week probably on that fancy cover for that hardness tester. Now I've got it back together and looking something like. The hardness tester needs the dial still needs a little bit of work, and I really need to sit down with a book and learn how to use it. If I could find a video about it, it'd be great. Because I need to know what all the functions do and how it actually performs and what it does and how it's supposed to work. I think the spring in it's still a little bit soft. I'm probably going to put another turn on that to give it a little bit more kick. I'm not sure about that, but I think that's what it needs. Just looking at it, if it was an indicator, it probably would. And apart from that, there's some ugly threads in it that need cleaning up, and the dial has two little detents to stop it turning, and they're almost missing because it's only aluminium, so we might have to do something about that too. Not sure what's involved in that, but I have to think about it. Anyway, they're all jobs. Get this done and back to Bill, so he can make some knives and not worry so much about the cold weather and stuff. Anyway, that's what we've done. Thanks for tuning in, guys. I'm probably going to call this. We've dragged it on. It seems that these live streams get pretty long. Wintergarten, if you're still watching, I hope this was somewhat helpful. It's a bit dribbly tonight, absolutely, all over the place. We've got a big job coming up, which is a non-return valve for a Fowler steamroller. I need to draw them up for Mark's roller. So that's something when we get this job of Bill's done, I'm going to start working on that. There's some fairly interesting things in that. That's basically straightforward 1920s interpreting drawings and drawing them up. But yeah, there's less organic shapes and things in that. It's straightforward. Anyway, I'm out. Thanks, guys. And more soon. Thanks for tuning in. And I hope it's not altogether boring and you're not just here for the fun, because there isn't any much in this stream. Sorry. Anyway, I'm out.